And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen.
I caught my wife cheating on me with our wedding planner on our wedding day. Can you believe that she picked the most important day in our lives as the day to cheat? I have come across many women in my life, but none of them has been as disgusting and stupid as the woman I now call my wife today. Can you imagine the gravity of the situation at hand? There is no form of disrespect worse than stooping so low on your own wedding day. My fellow Redditors, I'm not just going to sit back and act like nothing happened. I'm extremely lucky to have found out the truth, and trust me, now that I know, that woman is going to get what's coming for her. It was so close that I almost didn't know the true nature of what happened. If I had been like one of those men to fall helplessly in love with a woman, I'd have been crushed like a freaking pie. I'm thankful that I did not listen to my stupid friends who told me not to be suspicious of my own partner. Lol. Maybe they expected me to blindly follow her like I was a fool. I don't believe in the concept of trusting a woman so much that you turn a blind eye to the signs that are obviously in front of you. I'd rather end a relationship because the woman did not like my alertness than end a relationship because I found out I was being cheated on. There's nothing more devastating than finding out that the man you've been paying to plan your wedding has been sleeping with your wife. Indirectly, I've been paying this man to sleep with the woman I wanted to marry. Well, technically, I'm already married to her, and that's what makes the situation worse than it already is. The discovery of something so deceitful is the most annoying thing ever. Right now, I can't even help but think that my friends could have been in on it. I believe this because they have been against all the suspicions I had for my wife. Anytime I brought it up, they'd advise me to forget about it and focus on the wedding. Oh, let me clarify something. I only saw signs of my wife's cheating behavior a day before our wedding. Why did I not call it off? Like I said, I saw signs. I was not sure. She did not give anything away. I could not just suddenly cancel a wedding with over 150 people in attendance, just because I saw signs I was not sure of. Now this is the part where I blame my family and her family. The pressure that people put on you before your wedding makes you blinded to everything just because you cannot imagine canceling all the plans you have made. Before I go on with this experience of mine, let me give you all an insight into the relationship I have with my wife and how I met her. My name is Daniel, and I am a 29-year-old man who is married to Andrea, a 27-year-old woman. I met Andrea at a friend's wedding, and the funny thing is that I even brought a date to the wedding. So, do you want to know how I left the wedding with Andrea? I think things got complicated that day at the wedding reception. The couple we were celebrating are very versatile couples who are hard party animals. They live for parties and a good time. So, of course, their wedding had numerous varieties of drinks and shots. We drank and we honestly almost exceeded our limit. I can hold my alcohol very well. I can hold my alcohol insanely well, to be honest. But I don't know what those people added to those drinks. I got drunk for the first time in my whole life that day. I wasn't the only one in attendance who got drunk. Everybody did, including the couples. Andrea was not left out of the dunk squad, and that's how we started talking. I don't even know where my date went that night and how I ended up in my apartment with Andrea. The next morning was when everything came crashing down on me like a bucket of ice water. I had a one-night stand with Andrea. We all know one-night stands are not uncommon, but it was a big deal for me since I'm very particular about the people I interact with. For me to have left my date and went home with Andrea, I knew I had to be extremely drunk that night. My date did not contact me after that day again, and I was left as a single man. To my surprise, Andrea messaged me the next day after she left my apartment in the morning. I was surprised to see her message because I did not recollect asking her for her phone number. My fellow Redditors, the truth is that Andrea actually took my phone number from my phone that night. Yes, my wife was the one who made the first move. I admired her confidence, and that's how we started talking. We would hook up once in a while, but it soon got heated, and then we started dating. We dated for 4 years. And trust me, guys, it was an on and off dating. We weren't really a stable couple for the first 2 years. We would break up, then get back together again, and it went on and on. I really felt like she was my soulmate because we always seemed to find each other all over again. We dated seriously for 2 years straight, and that's when we decided to get married. I proposed to her and she said yes. That's how the journey started. To be honest, the wedding preparations are always the things that ruin marriage and the compatibility of the couple. If the couple are able to withstand the tedious wedding preparations and family rivalry, you can boldly say that they have a strong will to be together. To be honest, I'll say this to you all. Our wedding preparation was insane. Our families are the exact opposite of each other. They have different tastes in everything. Planning the wedding had to be one of the worst periods of my life. Her family wanted a big wedding, and my family wanted a small wedding. I had to put my foot down and let them know my wife and I hold the final say on how our wedding should go. Andrea and I finally decided to have a wedding that was not too big or small. We cut down the guest list to 150 people, and that's how we made it work. My fellow Redditors, let's get to the whole starting point of this story. The wedding planner who had been fucking my wife. We all know how it's always normal for a woman to take charge of the wedding planning. I mean, it's always the woman who wants the wedding to be perfect and dreamy, like she wants it. I never had a problem with Andrea taking charge of the wedding. To be honest, the wedding was bigger than I wanted it to be. Her family initially wanted a guest list of 250 people. I don't even know how they know that many people in the first place. We had to cut it down to 150 because I made it clear that I was not comfortable with so many people. I initially wanted just 90 people present. Having so many people only brought a bigger workload, but Andrea promised that she would handle things. I really didn't care as long as we had a wedding. But Andrea wanted to go big and extra. She spent nights looking at screens and browsing what the perfect wedding theme would be. At first, I tried to let her do her thing, but consequently, I decided to be a part of it. Not because I wanted to, but because I did not want to overwhelm her. Despite my desire to help, Andrea assured me that she was just fine on her own and didn't need any help. I stopped trying because I did not have the time to waste anyway. Andrea chose the wedding planner and I paid him. That was the arrangement. But I never expected our arrangement to end up with lies and unfaithfulness. My fellow Redditors, the wedding planner was a man. That did sit well with me because I hardly heard of cases where the wedding planner was a man. In fact, up until that moment, I didn't know that there were male wedding planners. I know they usually have male assistants or employees, but I never expected the head wedding planner to be a man. I did not suspect cheating because he was a man. No, it was far from it. I only doubted his ability to carry out the job, and that's why I asked Andrea why she picked him. She told me he was actually a very good wedding planner and that he was very popular in the wedding scene. I know nothing about wedding planners and their social presence, so I did not press further. From the designs he drafted off, he was actually very good at what he did. I made him go through a test my sister prepared, and he aced it. I did not have a problem hiring him, as long as he was good at his job. I do not have low self-esteem, so I was not troubled by having a man plan the wedding as long as he was a professional. Little did I know that this wedding planner was having the time of his life with Andrea. Now that I think about it, I'm really finding the whole situation laughable. This man was practically sleeping with Andrea nonstop, and I only found out on our wedding day. When I say I found out on our wedding day, I mean it was just barely an hour after our wedding and before our reception. But I'll get into that later. Let me tell you all what's really getting on my nerves. You know that it's a normal occurrence for the wedding planner and the bride to spend a lot of time together. They have to pick a dress that matches the decor, the perfect veil that will not contrast with the colors. They have to do everything together so that the bride is satisfied. For the groom, you're mostly just talking about your suit and tie. You have no business with choosing lipstick colors or jewelry. So naturally, I had barely any interaction with the wedding planner. During our wedding preparation, I took a leave from work, but I still had to attend Zoom meetings and try working on my computer. I had to make money. I'm sure my fellow Redditors can agree that wedding expenditures are outrageous. Nobody really cares how much you spent. They just want to see how perfect everything is. For me, it was the same situation. I had to work because I knew there's a life after the wedding, and we'd need to feed too. I don't consider myself a strict man, but I do consider myself a very intentional man. I don't like to lazy around or mince words. I did not hesitate to tell Andrea to cut down her spending. She was spending recklessly, and I was not having it. I warned her to cut everything down. Andrea literally took a whole month leave from work. That meant she was not getting any salary. I had to make her understand that money did not fall on trees. To be honest, our problems began from there. She got offended that I was telling her to watch how she spent my own money. Listen, I'm not a stingy man and I don't have a problem with spending on my wife, but I don't see anything wrong with telling her to watch how she spends money on irrelevant things. I still stand with what I said and there's no changing it. You should be able to respect money that you don't earn and use it for things that make sense. I mean, Andrea wanted us to have our reception on a yacht. Listen, if the guest list contained just under 50 people, I would not have a problem with that. But 150 people was just too outrageous. I was not ready to fund 150 people on a yacht. Can you imagine how much their feeding alone would cost? I made it clear to Andrea that we must have the wedding reception in a hotel. I did not leave room for debate, and I literally put my foot down on that one. I did not expect the reaction I got from Andrea. She began to act like a fucking spoiled brat. Mind you, this happened 2 weeks before our wedding. Andrea became rude and rebellious just because I changed the reception venue. I got so angry at one point that I told her I was going to cut things off if she did not change her attitude. She got scared and apologized to me. I honestly thought she'd keep to her word, and she did, but she did so in her own deceitful way. Even though Andrea stopped overreacting and trying to have an attitude, I still spoke to my friends about it. I told them I was not impressed with her behavior, and I explained why I felt that way to them. If Andrea behaved that way before we started our wedding preparation, I'd have taken a decision without consulting anyone first. But the reason I gave her the benefit of doubt is because I knew how stressful planning a wedding could be. I was stressed myself and understood that the tension and pressure to outdo yourself and make everything perfect can make you lose your personality a little bit. My friends brushed my concerns off and told me it was normal for women to become cranky during their wedding preparations. The married ones even narrated their own similar experiences to me and told me not to worry about it. If only I knew that my own experience came with a cheating scandal. Another reason why I did not give Andrea a hard time is because I felt bad for leaving all the planning to her. I tried to help her several times, but she turned my help down and told me she was just fine doing it alone. It's really not my fault that she took up most of the stress. Sometimes I'd try to input ideas and even help her, but she told me I was just adding to her stress. That discouraged me, and so I left her to do what she really wanted to do. So, as our wedding day drew closer, Andrea was back to her normal self. She stopped having an attitude and she listened to my inputs. I did not find this weird at all because I believed that she was back to her normal self because the wedding stress was coming to an end. I stopped trying to pry into her life and I stopped suspecting her movements. But 2 days to our wedding, I questioned everything I thought was true. We were already logged in at our hotel and we were busy getting ready for bed. Andrea suddenly got a phone call and she rushed out of the room to receive the call. I found this very weird because we never received calls away from each other. Even when it's a call about work, we sit with each other and take the call. There are even times when we put the call on loudspeaker so the other person could hear what was being said. So I obviously knew something had to be fishy if Andrea did not receive the call in front of me. I was pissed off and irritated at the same time. I left the room and decided to go search for her. I did not care how she'd feel if she saw me following her. A wedding was not a joke, so I had to be sure my wife was aware of that. I found her in the hallway whispering into the phone, and that's when I lost it. I walked up to her and tried grabbing the phone from her hands. She ended the call immediately and asked me why I disrupted her call. I asked her why she found it hard to receive the call in the room, and she gave the excuse of not wanting to disturb me. I told her I did not mind, and she was aware of that. Andrea tried to brush it off by telling me she was tired and that we needed to go to bed, but I was not having it. My fellow Redditors, I had to make sure she told me what the call was about. Andrea got annoyed and told me she was talking to a relative of hers who needed directions on how to get to the hotel. That was a lame excuse, and I told her I did not buy it at all. This is to tell you guys how vigilant I'd been, but I was still played like a fool at the end of the day. I made Andrea understand that her suspicious movements were only making me have second doubts about the wedding. She got upset when I told her that and explained to me that she was really talking to a relative. She even went as far as showing me the call log. The number was saved as aunt. Well, my fellow Redditors, I just discovered that Andrea's aunt has a beard and looks like a man. Oh wait, he looks like our wedding planner. He is our wedding planner. I can't even believe the kind of lame excuse I fell for that day. Of course I believed her, and went on with it. How am I expected to suddenly guess she was lying to me? It's ironic if you think about it. You know, sometimes you get caught up in situations that are not ideal at all. I'm a witness to that, and I can tell you this for free, it's always irritating. There is nothing more annoying than being blindsided and lied to many times. Everything only makes sense when you have found out the truth. But before the truth is out, it's almost like you're going around a maze and you do not know the direction to take. One day before my wedding, I was practically going around a maze because Andrea was making me doubt a lot of things. My fellow Redditors, imagine what I was thinking when I saw these signs 24 hours before I tried the knot. The preparations were intensifying, and guests had started arriving. My colleagues from work and my relatives from far and near were present. Even my boss made it to my wedding. Everything seemed fine that day, until Andrea gave me a reason to worry again. I was not worried about her. I was worried about making a fool of myself in front of so many people. I needed to know why Andrea was nowhere to be seen a day before our wedding. Yes, Reddit, you read that right. Andrea practically vanished from the room, and I did not see her for a very long time. Anyone I asked told me she went shopping for a last-minute design for the wedding. I did not like how that sounded at all. The wedding planner was supposed to be the one in charge of running errands like that. I asked them why the wedding planner did not go get it, and they said he accompanied Andrea. Yes, I'm telling you the facts. Andrea left the hotel with the wedding planner to get whatever design she needed to get. You all needed to see how mad I was that day. I was practically livid. I did not appreciate the fact that Andrea left the hotel with the wedding planner without letting me know first. It felt like she was just going around making whatever decisions she thought were right. She did not consult me first. If I left the hotel like that without her knowledge, I'd probably be tagged the heartless fiancé who does not let his wife know where he's going. But Andrea did not think twice before doing what she did. Even then, I did not suspect that Andrea was cheating on me. I did not even suspect that she had anything to do with the wedding planner at all. That's just me telling you how secretive they had been. I know some of you might comment that I was a fool not to notice the signs, but that is just because you all already know where this is headed. I did not know back then. I could not even think of it. It's just like a woman finding out her husband is sleeping with her best friend who is her chief bridesmaid. Let's say she saw them together on many occasions, but she did not suspect a thing until she found out they were actually sleeping with each other. That's the same case for me. There's no way I suddenly thought about the prospect of my wife sleeping with our own wedding planner. It's not something that happens every day. When Andrea came back with the wedding planner that day, I pulled her to the side and had a very heated argument with her. I inquired where she had been, and she told me she went to get something for the wedding. I asked her why she did not let me know, and she said it slipped off her mind. I did not let her off the hook this time. I was so angry that I asked her if she did not want to get married anymore. She was surprised and asked why I was implying that. To be honest, that day we had a very long argument, and at the end of the day she apologized and promised not to be so careless again. It's not the best situation to have an argument a day to your wedding day, but it's not an unlikely situation. It happens a lot, and I know this because I've attended many weddings before. The bride and groom argue and have differences even on the very day of their wedding. Andrea begged for my forgiveness and told me the wedding stress was making her forget things, and that's why she forgot to let me know a heat of time. I thought about it for a while and decided to let it go. To be honest, I could also see that she was stressed with the wedding, but scratch that. I can now tell that the source of her stress was just as a result of her trying to juggle her secret affair with planning the wedding. Everything that happened to her during that period was all her fault. Andrea is to be blamed for how everything turned out. She made poor, deceitful decisions and thought she could be quirky about it. Now, let me tell you all what happened on the wedding day and how I found out she was cheating on me with the wedding planner. Our wedding day came and we were really excited. You know that feeling of satisfaction when everything you have worked so hard for is finally happening before your eyes? You feel content and extremely grateful to witness it. That feeling was no different from what I felt. In my case, I'd spent a lot of money on the wedding, so when I saw how it turned out, I was super excited. A day before the wedding, I had a bachelor party and so did Andrea. Andrea had a bridal shower. It was like a remake of how we met each other for the first time. Just like that day, we both got drunk and spent the night together. I woke up with a headache on my wedding day, but I was lucky enough to get some hot soup, which helped with the hangover. I did not see Andrea in the morning because she went to get ready. I also spent time getting ready for the wedding. It felt good to see our family members together. They all seemed happy for us, and I was really glad that they could make it. If I'm correct, there had to be more than 150 people at the wedding that day. Thankfully, I did not agree to having the wedding on the yacht, so I was not really bothered. After we said our vows in church, it was time for us to go get some rest before we went to the reception. Andrea had to go change her dress, and I had to go change mine too. I also wanted to take a shower because I was very tired. The reception hall was set up at that time, and some of the guests were already getting ready to go to the venue. After taking a shower and changing my clothes, I decided to go in search of Andrea. I forgot to give her the bracelet I bought for her the night before. I felt like the bracelet would look good on the reception dress she was going to wear. It took me some time to find the room Andrea was logged in because I'd not seen the room in the morning. We separated to get dressed and chose separate rooms to get ready. While I was still in search of her room, I was very excited to be a married man. I kept thinking about the bumps we had before getting married and how we met each other at a friend's party. I think it's safe to say that I was practically going down memory lane that day. I had to ask a worker at the hotel where Andrea's room was before I was directed there. I was so excited that I even forgot to knock on the door. I just pushed the door open, but my excitement vanished immediately. I did not expect to see what I'd seen that day. Not in a million years did I think that my own wife will be sprawled on the bed like a whore in her wedding dress, while the wedding planner that was under my fucking payroll was on top of her naked. It felt like the whole world had stopped and was waiting for me to digest the sight I was looking at. Andrea's wedding gown, a gown that I fucking paid for, was ripped off. They were having sex right before my eyes. They were so lost in the act that it took a few seconds before Andrea noticed my presence. I can still remember how her eyes widened infinitesimally and how she pushed the wedding planner off her immediately. I was then able to see the full state of her dress. She looked like a fucking hooker. Her makeup was smeared and her hair was scattered around the place. She opened her mouth to speak, but I grabbed the glass of water near the door and threw it at the bed immediately. I was angry. I was livid, and I swear that it took all my self-control for me not to throw that glass at their heads. Before a second thought, I slapped the wedding planner across the face. The fool had to be less than 24 years old at most. He was slimmer than a model, and I thought he was even gay. But no, the boy I was paying to plan my wedding was sleeping with my wife. Do you know the worst part? They didn't even have the decency to use a condom. I grabbed him by the shoulders and kicked him in the groin. Yes, Redditors, I kicked him there. Andrea jumped out of the bed and started pleading with me. She said she was sorry and blah, blah, blah. I didn't even have time to listen to her. I called out to my elder brother, whose room was just a few rooms away. I continued calling his name till he rushed into the room. He was also shocked to see what was going on. He rushed to my side and asked me if what he was seeing was true. Of course it was, and that's what I told him. I was disgusted, irritated, and disappointed. There are no words to describe the amount of disgust I felt for Andrea and the wedding planner. I felt betrayed, but at that moment, everything began to make sense to me. I finally understood why Andrea sneaked out of the hotel to go buy something the day before. Everything finally made sense to me, but it was just too late. There was nothing I could do because I was already married to her. I was married to a cheater, and she dared cheat on me on our own wedding day. I could not even look at Andrea or listen to her speak, and that's when I hatched my plan. I did not care if I was already married to her or whatnot. I needed to make her regret her actions. I needed to make her shiver in fear whenever she heard my name or even got remotely close to me. There was no way I was going to act like I did not just see what transpired before me. I had no reason to protect a marriage that had no respect for me. Just one look at my brother, and he already knew what I had in mind. He could tell that I wanted to disgrace them, so he asked me what to do. I told him to grab the wedding planner while I grabbed Andrea. He did as he was told, and that was how we grabbed them out of the room. My fellow Redditors, I know you all are wondering what we ended up doing to them. Well, I did what I could think of at that moment that would be extremely embarrassing. I wanted to make sure that I crushed their egos to the limit. You know the funny thing? The huge guest list Andrea and her family were so desperate to have worked to my own advantage. There were over 150 people present, which meant they did not listen to me. But guess what? It ended up ruining them at the end of the day. All the guests were already waiting for us at the reception, and so my brother and I dragged them to the reception hall. The wedding planner pleaded with me to let him at least put on his pants, but I refused. Yes, I refused. Do you think he just stood there and let my brother carry him? Oh no. He tried putting up a fight. But that was when I called on two of my other friends who came too, look for me and ask why we took so much time. So Redditors, 3 men dragged the wedding planner to the reception while I pulled Andrea and followed them. She cried, wailed, and begged for my forgiveness, but I ignored her like the filth she is. I did not care about her tattered clothes, messy hair, or almost exposed boobs. She's shameless, so she should not have a problem with being disgraced in front of the guests. Everyone stood up immediately when they saw us. I could see the obvious shock on their faces. I mean, they all came to witness a wedding, but they were seeing a naked man and almost naked woman. A woman that was supposed to be the bride. Andrea's family rushed towards us with obvious worry on their faces. My fellow Redditors, they looked horrified. They tried to cover her up, and her father even had the audacity to ask me if I was out of her mind. I ignored them and pushed Andrea to the stage with the wedding planner. My parents tried to talk to me and ask me what was going on, but I ignored them too. I was too angry to act reasonably or try to explain anything to anyone, so I just focused on what I wanted to do. Just as I went to grab the mic from the MC, Andrea tried running away, but my brother was able to grab her on time. Even the wedding planner did not dare move. He just squatted and hid his face because he was aware of his full nudity. His only saving grace was the towel that one of his employees threw to him. That's what he used to cover himself up. Using the mic, I told everyone how I just found my newly wedded wife sleeping with the wedding planner in her hotel room when she was meant to be changing into her reception dress. My fellow Redditors, I can still remember the gasps that echoed in the hall that day. Before I could even start the next sentence, people grabbed their phones and started recording the scene that was unfolding before them. For the first time in my entire life, I was happy to have a huge crowd present. I told everyone how Andrea must have been sleeping with this wedding planner for a long time. Well, I was not wrong, guys, because I discovered that they started having an affair the moment she hired him. You should not have allowed her to keep the wedding planner. Those were the words some people said to me. I laughed in their faces and called them cowards. It sounds stupid to try and blame me for someone else's poor choices. I should have stopped her from cheating. What's that supposed to mean? A person that wants to cheat will cheat. They don't need an excuse. Cheaters do not need to be given excuses for decisions they made when sober. Andrea tried to turn the tables around and tell me how I cheated on my date that night when we met. I had to explain to the fool that I was not even in a relationship with the girl I brought. She was my date to the wedding, and we were in the talking stage. I was not dating her, neither was I married to her. I was not her fiancé. Andrea was so dumbfounded that she had to hide her face from the cameras. At that moment, I knew I was done with her, and so I left the reception hall immediately. Thankfully, I'd not given the wedding planner his remaining balance for planning the wedding. Of course, I was not foolish enough to give it to him. I went to Andrea's hotel room with my brother and packed all the dresses she bought for the reception, the jewelry, and even her shoes and bags. I also grabbed her purse. I sold everything off 1 week later and kept the money for myself. I paid for the whole wedding. I might have wasted money on the reception, but I was able to get my money back from the outrageous designer bags and shoes. That's how my wedding ended 2 weeks ago, guys. Talk of plot twists, right? I decided to share this story with Reddit because I'm still shocked from the events. I've not seen Andrea since that day, and I do not plan to see her anytime soon. I filed for annulment the very next day after the wedding, and after a lot of procedures, our marriage will be annulled soon. I think it's right to say I had the worst wedding ever, lol. I'm just very thankful that I found out in time. It was already late, but it could have been worse. If she can cheat on our wedding day, what can't she do? I've freed myself from the marriage, and in a couple of days, I'll be legally free and single. Thank you for reading this disgusting experience of mine. I hope you learn a thing or two from my experience. Till next time, Reddit. Dear Redditors, there's nothing more painful than watching the home you fought hard to build being broken by your own partner. Sure, I am not a saint, but I did not expect my wife to throw away our 30 long years of relationship just because she wanted to feel young again. It's always easier to destroy things, but it's never easy to build them up. I still don't understand how 3 decades worth of dedication was broken in just a few weeks. My name is Paul, and I'm a 50 years old man who is married to Florence, a 49 years old woman. Florence and I met when we were in college, and we just hit it off immediately. We dated for 5 years and have been married for 25 years. We literally just celebrated our 25 years anniversary last weekend. I know you all are wondering why I'm writing this message when we just had a huge 25 years anniversary celebration. Well, my wife has decided to make decisions that are only breaking our marriage. She's cheating on me and I know it. I know it because I have caught her in the act many times. I just don't know why this is happening to me or why she is doing it. It does not make sense. She does not know that I know yet, and that is only because I am taking my time to process what she did. I'll be needing advice from Reddit as I try to get to the bottom of this. I could just let her know now and end our marriage, but it's not that easy. 30 years of being with one person is not something you can just throw away. The man she is cheating on me with is young. Yes, he's very young. He should be at least 20 years younger than her. I'm certain if I had knocked her up when we were in college, she would have been able to give birth to his age mate. I'm disgusted by just thinking about it. The fact that our anniversary was just a few days ago makes me wonder if this whole thing has been going on long before our anniversary. My wife now sings in the shower and wears makeup. Listen, I'm not against makeup, and I've never been against it. She can wear it if she wants, but I don't understand why she's suddenly wearing it after stopping for years. I mean, at first I thought she was just trying to experiment her youth all over again, but then I realized that she was wearing makeup to go see her new lover. I caught her sneaking out of the house many times in the night. I'd wake up and she'd be nowhere to be found in the house. I'm frustrated because I want to say something, but I just can't right now. I need to be patient to know my next steps. So far, I know she's cheating with a younger man and I know his name. I also know that she sneaked out of the house at night and came back at dawn. This is vital information I'd need when I finally want to catch her in the act. I'm not going to let her ruin our marriage without facing the consequences. I'm going to keep you guys updated every single chance I get. Please let me know the next steps I should take. Update, I'm super grateful to everyone that has taken their time to let me know what I should do. I've seen some very vital advice that I do not take for granted at all. Now let me let you all know what has been going on during these past few days. My wife has not stopped seeing her lover, and things have intensified between them. She doesn't even try to hide the relationship. It's almost like she wants me to know she's cheating or she likes the adrenaline she's getting from it. Yesterday we were having dinner, and then she asked me what I thought about oral sex. I was shocked and confused at the same time. I did not expect her to ask me such a question. My wife and I have never engaged in oral sex before, so I did not expect her to tell me one of her favorite sex activities is oral sex. I saw how she smiled and continued eating after she asked the question. She definitely wanted to get a reaction out of me, so I ignored her and continued eating my dinner. In the evening yesterday, she was in the shower moaning out loud. When I say she was moaning, I mean it. It was not a painful moan, it was sexual. I heard it loud and clear, and it was not just once. It kept recurring again and again. I even had to leave the room because I got annoyed. Some of you might ask why I did not go to the shower and see why my wife was moaning. That's because I already knew why she was moaning. I heard her talking to someone and I was sure it was a phone call because her phone was not in the bedroom. My wife was definitely calling her lover yesterday. The way she's disrespecting our marriage is very disgusting. She's not hiding any of it, and that's how I know that my wife must have been cheating on me for a very long time. Just like you all advised in the comments section, I'm going to try my best to catch her in the act by following her one of these days. If that does not work, I'll definitely confront her and see what kind of excuse she comes up with. I heard her over the phone planning a date with him. I think she's going to be sneaking out of the house tonight. I'm definitely going to see what she's up to. Before I forget, some of you asked if we have children. Yes, we do. We have 2 children, a boy and a girl. They are both in college now. That's all for today, guys. Expect another update soon. Update. My dear Redditors, I did as I promised and followed my wife out 2 nights ago. I think I made a very big mistake by following her because what I saw was very devastating. That night, I had to pretend I was asleep before she left the house. She got dressed in a very revealing outfit, then she wore a coat over it and left the house. I got dressed after she left too and decided to go on foot. I don't have an exotic car, I have a truck. It's old and rusty, and I'm 100% confident that if I'd taken that truck, I would have woken the whole neighborhood. It was hard to keep up with my wife on foot, and at some point, I lost her. I did not see her on the road again, so I got confused on where to go. It took time, but I was able to find out where she was. She called a taxi and left, so I had to call a taxi too. My taxi followed hers for almost 10 minutes, and it was exhausting. She finally stopped at what seemed like a secluded neighborhood. I was worried for a minute because the neighborhood looked suspicious. I did not imagine that my wife chose a gangster as her boyfriend. I'd never seen him up close, but from the neighborhood we stopped at that night, I knew he had to be some young guy in a gang or something. My wife was not worried for her safety at all. She strolled into the neighborhood like she had lived there all her life. At that moment, I believed that my wife must have been under a spell. Yes, I know how delusional that sounds, but what do you expect me to say? I did not like the neighborhood or the sight of my wife greeting the neighbors like they were longtime friends. I felt disrespected and jealous. I'm still jealous even as I write this. Florence got into a particular house that was almost secluded from the rest. I had to hide behind a tree for a long time, waiting for her to come out. I hoped she would come out fast because, dear Redditors, I was in a very suspicious neighborhood. At that moment, I knew that if I was seen spying on my wife in a neighborhood she was very familiar with, I could have been beaten up. I did not trust my wife not to have me killed. She was already cheating on me, so I did not trust her at all. After almost an hour of waiting, she left the house with the man I'd seen her with before. They were smiling happily and his hands were wrapped around her shoulders. I will be very honest, he is a good-looking man. He has strong muscles and very good teeth. He was also very touchy with her. He was touching almost all parts of her body at once as he whispered something into her ear. I watched as my wife blushed and practically snuggled her head on his shoulders. I was disgusted by how shameless my wife was. She did not even care to check if anyone was watching them. They acted like they were the only ones in the world. I felt like taking up a stone and throwing it at them. Rude. I know, but no one wants to see the woman they are married to blushing and snuggling up to a younger man like she was still in high school. I even began to suspect that my wife was stealing from me. Yes, I had every reason to suspect that. There could be a higher possibility that she was giving money to her new lover. The guy looked like a stripper who lost his way in life. Don't judge my ability to judge him. If you found your wife cheating on you, you definitely understand what I feel right now. I get what might have tempted her. He's young and all, but he looked like a bad idea. He had good looks, but I swear he looked like a criminal. Yes, Reddit, you read that right. I'm judging him. I'm fucking judging him. They were just touching, but it almost felt like I was watching porn. My wife grabbed his neck and kissed him. She kissed him slowly and passionately. I feel disgusted even writing this, and I have wished to unsee everything I saw that night. I waited for them to finish that night, so I could finally go because I had seen enough, but it did not end there. The young-looking criminal guy gripped my wife's ass like the fool he was. My stupid wife did not try to stop him. She leaned into his touch and smiled from ear to ear. I was fucking pissed. The fact that my wife and I had sex the night before and she was doing that with no conscience at all made me very disgusted. The stupid guy grabbed her hands, then whispered something in her ear again. My wife nodded her head, and then they went back inside. I don't think I need to read my faith to know what they sent back inside to do. I was already full, so I turned around and headed back for the road. I almost got caught by 2 guys who were sitting around smoking. They stopped me and asked who I was and what I was doing there. I had to lie that I was a delivery man who came to deliver pizza. I practically ran from there that night. When I got home, I could barely contain the anger I felt. All because of my wife, I had to lie to claim I was a delivery man. Not once in my life did I imagine myself sneaking after my wife at night. My dear Redditors, do you see how fucked up this whole thing is? I don't even know what to do. Imagine the amount of anger and annoyance I feel right now. That night, I almost broke our wedding picture and threw it out. I wanted to pack my wife's belongings outside the house at that very moment. I practically watched her sexually interact with another man. I was there, and I watched it live and direct. I don't need any facts or investigation. I don't need any evidence. I saw it with my own eyes. There's nothing my wife could say that would validate any of what she did. It was not her being drunk, and it was not a one-time thing. For her to know the neighbors in that neighborhood, it had to have been going on for a very long time. She has been cheating on me way before our anniversary. I don't need to have any evidence at all. That night, I made sure I thought of a plan before my wife came back home. I wanted to find out more about her cheating and why she was doing it. The betrayal I felt was very bad. I was practically heartbroken because of what I saw. My wife and I have been married for too long. She should have thought about that before doing what she did. When my wife came home in the morning, I was tempted to ask her where she had been. I was so close to confronting her, but I had to control myself. I did not want to confront her, then have her lead in my face or try to defend her actions. I have seen many movies of how cheaters turn everything around. This was not a movie, but I did not want to underestimate my wife at all. I knew that our children were going to be coming back home from their college break, so I had to hatch up a plan first. I planned to expose her in front of our children and see just how embarrassed she would be. Yes, I do not have a conscience in this regard. I plan to be as ruthless as she is. But first, I want to ask my dear Redditors what you all think. Do you all think it's better for me to confront Florence and let her know I know she's cheating, or it's better I just expose her in front of our kids? These are the two options I've been stuck with for the past few days. To be honest, living with my wife under my roof and sharing the same space with her has been very hard. I don't even care about her touch or laugh at her stupid jokes. I'm disgusted by every single thing she's been doing. I think this is why it's better to confront her and let her know that I know the truth. That way, she can stop pretending and acting like everything is all right when it's not. She's acting like a teenage girl who's love-struck. A woman who has 2 children and has been married for over 25 years should know better. If I expose her in front of my kids, I will not feel a single bit of guilt. I'll act nonchalantly the same way she acted nonchalantly when her criminal-looking lover groped her ass in front of people. If anyone knew me in that neighborhood, they'd think I'm the biggest fool to exist on this planet. What irks me more is the fact that she had the audacity to pretend like she loves me and is not cheating on me. If I did not know about her cheating, I'd have foolishly thought my wife was falling in love with me all over again, lol. So, my dear Redditors, please let me know what you think I should do. All your comments are very much appreciated, and I'd love nothing more than to reply to all of them if I have the chance. This is very important to me, guys. Please help me. Update. My dear Redditors, I see that this post has gotten a lot of recognition. Thank you all for your wonderful ideas and suggestions. I'm really thankful to you all. This experience has been traumatizing, but the funny comments of all the Redditors had me laughing out loud. I did not expect some of the names Florence is being called in the comments. Even her criminal boyfriend was not spared at all. I like that very much, lol. Well, it's time for me to give you guys an update. Most of you suggested that it's better I confronted my wife first before letting my children know. I thought about it a lot, and after some time, I believed that was the best option too. Some of you also said it's better I follow my wife to her lover's house and catch them red-handed before confronting her, so I'd have a lot of evidence to back up my claims. I mean, what better evidence than being caught in the act? I really liked the idea, so I decided to go with it. It took me time to know what my wife was up to because she started hiding to make her calls. I believe that she got suspicious and decided to hide when calling her lover. I did not let that stop me, though. It took time, but I was finally able to eavesdrop on her conversation with him. I found out they were planning to meet up at his friend's apartment. I was happy to hear that because I did not want to go back to that neighborhood again. The chances of them catching me the second time was very high. On the day of their planned date, my wife did something that surprised me. I was practically spooked at how confident she was when she stood in front of me and lied to my face. She told me she was going to get some gifts for our children that were going to be back in 2 weeks. I asked her if she was sure, and she said yes. She even asked me if I wanted to go with her to get the gifts. That was intentional on her part because she was very aware of the fact that I had to be at work that day. She knew I could not say yes, so that was why she asked. I pretended to be sad I could not follow her, then bade her goodbye. I did not go to work that day and already told one of my colleagues to cover for me. I did not follow my wife immediately because I checked her phone the previous day and knew exactly where she was going to meet up with her lover. I spent another hour hailing a taxi and going to the address I'd seen on her phone. When I got to the apartment, I was very angry. I didn't even know why I suddenly got angry all over again. The fact that my wife had the nerve to lie to me that morning was very disgusting. My dear Redditors, you needed to have seen how my veins were practically protruding on my neck. Who would have thought that a 50-year-old man like me would have to go around looking for his 49-year-old wife because he found out she's cheating on him with a man much younger than him? I felt embarrassed on my behalf as I made my way to the door of the apartment. I still remember the looks people were giving me because I spent a lot of time at the door, contemplating whether I was making the right decision or not. I stopped second-guessing myself when I heard the sounds that were coming out of the apartment. I could hear the disgusting moans and stifled screams, and it was just too much for me to stomach. I did not think twice before banging on the door. The moans stopped immediately, and then I could hear the tussle inside. At that point, they were struggling to get dressed. The criminal-looking guy even cussed and hissed. The fool had the audacity to tell Florence that whoever was at the door had to have come for important business, or else he would punch them in the face. The guy had the audacity to say that to a woman he was not even married to. Immediately, the door was unlocked. I had to hold in the punch that I wanted to land in the guy's face. He was in his boxer briefs and his hair was ruffled. Even a 14-year-old child could guess what they had going on before I came there. My dear Redditors, you cannot even imagine that the guy had the audacity to ask me what the fuck I wanted. I did not speak at first because I had to stare at his face and whole body just to imagine what had gotten into my wife. I had to ask myself what went wrong that she decided to shake our home because of the young guy who looked like he did not have his life figured out. I took a deep breath and asked the guy where my wife was. You all cannot imagine how nonchalant he looked even after I called Florence my wife. He leaned on the door and raised his brows. He even went as far as stroking his chin and eyeing me up and down. I was surprised when he said, "So you are the old man that does not know how to handle a woman." I was enraged. How could a boy I was practically capable of giving birth to ask me such a question? I had to control myself that day because I knew that it was not his fault. If he had the audacity to say that to me, then it was my wife who gave him the liberty to do so. She must have been saying degrading things about me to him. My dear Redditors, can you imagine that? When I found out my wife was cheating many weeks ago, I was heartbroken, but I never imagined that she'd go as far as saying awful things about me to her lover. Who does that? The funny part is that she told him I could not handle her. I feel disgusted. Maybe my wife is really a child in an adult body. I'm sorry for deviating, guys. I just had to use this medium to vent out the anger I felt after that stupid boy said those words to me without any hint of fear. After he said those words to me, I pushed him back into the apartment. He almost lost his footing because he was surprised and ended up on the couch. I searched around for my wife and found her struggling to put her bra on. You needed to see how messy her hair looked. She looked like a fucking whore. Yes, I said it. I called my wife a whore, and I'm not afraid to say it again. When I saw how dirty she looked, I could not help but lose the little respect I had for her. When our eyes met, I could see the embarrassment in them, but not once did I see a single trace of guilt in her eyes. She finally got her bra on, then raised her head up high like she had won a Nobel Prize. I shook my head in disgust and asked her, "Is this the gift you want to give our children when they get back?" My dear Redditors, my shameless wife shook her head and told me she could explain. I had to laugh immediately because I found it very funny. Every single person caught cheating seems to feel the need to explain. Explain what? Explain how you decided to open your legs for a man you're 20 years older than just because you wanted to cheat on your own husband? I called her a whore right there and then. Her little plaything had the audacity to tell me, "Don't you dare call her a plaything." I felt like snapping his tattooed head in half, but I didn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew I would not win a fight with him. He is young and agile. I might not be old, but my bones are definitely not the same. I also didn't want Florence to get the idea that I was fighting for her. I would have been very stupid if I gave her that satisfaction of watching her plaything and her husband wrestling it out. She was a fucking fool, and I had to let her know she was not worth my time or strength. I left the apartment immediately because I'd seen exactly what I wanted to see. Thankfully, I did not feel that heartbroken that day. Maybe it was because I'd seen her with him many times before, or maybe it was because I already knew she had been cheating on me. My wife only came back home 2 hours later. Do you know what that means? She was not afraid to stay back and finish what they had started. That just shows how she has no fucking respect for our marriage. I was devastated to see her walk into the bedroom confidently. I stood up from the bed and asked her to get the fuck out of my house. She told me I was acting irrationally and that I needed to give her time to explain. I was not interested in listening to her explanation, and I made that clear to her, but she was relentless. She told me that even if I had not caught her cheating, she planned to let me know by herself. She said she was sorry for cheating on me, but she does not regret it. Yes, Redditors, she said that. The woman I've been married to for 25 fucking years had the audacity to look me in the eye and tell me she did not regret cheating on me. What's more disrespectful than that? It took all the self-control I had in me not to do something I ended up regretting. If I was in her shoes as a man and I looked into my wife's eyes and told her I didn't regret cheating on her, what would I be called? A liar, cheater, heartless man, blah, blah, blah. Yet, she did not hesitate to open her fucking mouth and say all those disrespectful words. Florence said she didn't cheat just to spite me and that she had her reasons for cheating. Don't they all? She said she wanted to feel alive and free again. She wanted the excitement and adrenaline of her youth and was not getting it from me, so she cheated. She told me that she felt older than her age many times in our marriage, and she hated the idea that we'd been married for 25 years and have been together for 30 years. Florence proceeded to say that she did not like the idea of being stuck with one man for the rest of her life. She needed to explore her life and do whatever she wanted to do with herself. You know what, guys? I've never really understood why people that cheat think they always have some sort of valid reason to do so. It's the most disrespectful thing ever. If you are tired of your partner and want to live freely, why don't you just let them know? Is it not better to break things off with them or get a divorce rather than lying to their face or cheating on them? Why do people always think it's okay to cheat and lie, then come up with the world's most useless excuses? My wife is one of those stupid people. I asked her why she did not let me know that she was tired of our marriage and wanted to feel young again. I asked her why she felt the need to cheat on me with a stupid young boy that spoke like a fool. I did not hold back that day. I cussed at her and called her names. I made sure she felt the heat of what she did to me. I even asked her if she had been cheating on me before our 25th wedding anniversary, and she said yes. That was when I lost it and started throwing things around. She practically blindsided me and made a fool out of me in front of all the people we loved. Do you know the worst part, Redditors? Florence was the one who was in charge of planning our anniversary. I left all the plans to her, and she was the one that executed everything. Can you imagine that she pretended to be so happy and in love with me? We danced around, cut cakes, and even said our vows again. How disgusting can a person be to do that when they were cheating on their partner? Florence said she didn't plan to cheat and that it just happened. She could not resist the temptation because she had longed for the youthful feeling and adrenaline for a long time. I got disgusted and tired of listening to her, so I sent her packing immediately. I practically threw her clothes out of the closet and pushed her out of the room. She tried asking me if she could stay the night, but I refused. I was not that foolish. After everything she said that day, I was sure that I wanted nothing to do with that woman again. That night, after I threw her out, I had to break all our wedding frames and throw them out of the house. I made sure I cleared every single trace of her in that house. I did not want any memories of her lying around my house. I spent hours thinking about what I wanted to do. I knew I did not want to stay married to her, but I did not want to divorce her. If I filed for divorce, I might be the one to part with some of my money. The court doesn't really care who cheated on who. The woman had an upper hand in the court, and that is a fact. I am not a rich man who has houses or cars around the globe, but I am not ready to give a dime to that scheming bitch. I'd rather die than let a single cent of my hard-earned money go to her. My children are coming back home in a few days and I don't know what to do. I want to tell them their mother is a cheat. One is 21 and one is 19, so there will be no need to fight for custody. They are also in college, so there will be no reason to make schedules and decide where they spend the weekends. I don't know how to tell my children what has been going on. I don't even know if I should tell them at all. I'm stuck between not filing for a divorce and filing for a divorce. I'm also stuck with thinking of how to break the news to my children. I'm not the one who cheated, but I'm practically the one facing the consequences of someone else's actions. I need your help once again, my dear Redditors. My wife has left me between a rock and a hard place. There is practically no reasonable solution in my head right now because I am still in shock. I did not expect things to unfold this way after 30 years of knowing Florence. I honestly believed that we would be together for the rest of our lives. There are no words to describe the level of disappointment, shock, and anger I feel right now. I need the advice of my fellow Redditors now more than ever. Please help me get rid of this huge problem. Update. Whew! What a year it has been. I cannot believe that it's been exactly 1 year since I made this post. Time does really fly. I am beyond thankful to Reddit as a platform and the Redditors that make this platform a safe space for anyone and everyone. You all are always ready to help, no matter how complicated the situation is. It's also very comforting that you all share your own stories and experiences in the comments too. For someone like me who began to question why I was going through that predicament in my life, it felt good to see other people telling me I'm not alone. I cannot thank you all enough. I'm also sorry that it took me 1 long year to make an update to this post. It's been a crazy year, a year that changed every single thing I thought was part of my life. So my children eventually got back from college, and like most of you suggested, I told them what had been going on. My children were very shocked to hear everything that happened, considering the fact that they celebrated our anniversary with us. They sympathized with me and made me feel a lot better, to be honest. Florence was still their mother, and I did not guilt-trip them into seeing her as someone else. Our family was broken, but my children made me feel much more alive. They took me out to go see movies, and they even had cooking classes with me. Florence moved in with her lover, and the children visited them once in a while. I was very hurt, and it took me a lot of time to come around, but eventually, I did. I have decided not to file for divorce because I do not want any legal battle at all. I don't want to be the first one to file for a divorce. I want Florence to file for divorce whenever she wants to. Thanks to my children, I started going on casual dates 3 months ago. They told me it was better I dated other people so I would not feel too lonely at home. I listened to them, and it was great. My first few dates did not really go anywhere substantial, but after some more dates, I met someone I was interested in. We've been dating for 1 month now, and it's been great. I plan on asking her to move in with me if we date for up to 1 year. I really like her, and it's cool that we are actually the same age. She has children too, and it's nice to have someone you share common interests with. Well, my dear Redditors, life has been good for the most part. I've been able to move past the ugly experience I had with my wife. She chose to cheat on me because she wanted to feel young, free, and sexy. Well, I hope she got what she wanted. I really don't care about her any longer. It's been a very enlightening year, but I'm most grateful for the EAP friends I made on Reddit. Your funny comments and outrageous ideas are beyond extraordinary. Some of you have the wildest imaginations ever. You all are the best. I'm looking forward to reading your own life experiences, positive, I hope, and just seeing where the journey of life takes us. What a ride it has been. It was not bump-free, but it was worth it. Good day, Redditors. I'm actually very excited to share my experience with you all today. Consequently, I know there will be several questions regarding the motive of this post, and I'm ready to answer all the questions. I'm in a very good mood because something very comical happened to me. Something that I'll like my dear Redditors to know. My ex-wife had the audacity to show up at my house yesterday. I thought she'd gotten lost or something, but no. She came intentionally. The funniest part is that the foolish woman wants me back in her life. She finally wants her husband and child back. I can assure you all that nothing like that is going to happen. I'd rather die than have that woman in my life again. After she came back here yesterday, I knew I had to hatch up a plan. I don't want her in my life or my child's life, and I will make sure I fight her till I die. But I don't know of my daughter. She might say she doesn't want her back, but we all know that children are gullible. It does not help that she was an infant and had no recollection of what transpired years ago. That's why I'm here to share my story with Reddit so you all can direct me to the right part. My motive is to make sure my daughter hates her forever, and I'm going to fight for that with everything in me. But before we do that, let me tell you all a little bit about me and my witchy ex-wife. My ex-wife, Sophia, F33, and I, Nathaniel, M35, were married for just 2 years and a half and knew each other for 2 years before we got married. We had our daughter 2 years into our marriage. We were first-time parents and knew nothing about raising a child, but we were ready to make an effort. Or so I thought. Barely 3 months after my daughter was born, my wife packed her belongings and told me she could no longer stay married to me. "I'm done, Nathaniel. This isn't working for me. This is not who I am." Those were the exact words she said to me 10 years ago. How could a married woman with an infant just wake up one day and say she was done? How is that even supposed to make sense? I tried asking her what her reasons were, and all she could come up with was the fact that she was tired of raising a baby when she felt like a baby herself. For reference sake, I'll mention this again. Sophia was 23 years old by that time, and according to her, she was just a baby. Sophia said she was overwhelmed with our marriage and having a baby only made it worse for her, so she took her bags and left the house. Fuck it. I had a rough life even before I got married to Sophia. I practically had the worst childhood ever and was a victim of domestic violence. I grew up the hard way, so I built up my walls around me and was never one to care about any emotional shit. But what Sophia did that day got an emotion out of me. Anger. That's the emotion Sophia's actions got out of me, and trust me, that's a big deal. If Sophia had just left the marriage before we had our daughter, Daniela, I'd have been fine. I wouldn't even give a fuck what she ended up doing with her life. But she chose to abandon a little child who did nothing wrong. The moment Sophia left the house that day, I swore that she was dead to me. She has been dead to me for the past 10 years, and I swear on my life that she will be dead to me forever. Nothing in this world will ever make me take that woman back in my life. I'm not that stupid, and honestly, I don't even give a fuck what happens to her. I don't care why she came back, and I honestly don't want to know. When she came back yesterday with her mother pleading and wailing like a dog, I did not even look at her twice. I asked security to take both her and her mother out of my house. If Sophia and I didn't have our daughter, there would have been no reason for this post. But we have a daughter. My daughter is just 10 years old. Daniela is still in her first year of high school, and I don't want to take any chances. Daniela was just an infant when Sophia left her. She does not remember any of it, so it'll be hard for her to stay away. Almost every single day, I remind Daniela how Sophia left her when she was just a little baby. Many people tell me I'm wrong for doing that, and it's not right, but I don't care. I did not care back then, and I don't care now. Some relatives say it's not good to ruin the relationship between the child and the mother. But as far as I am concerned, the only mother figure in my daughter's life is my girlfriend, Esther. Sophia is just a stupid mistake I made in my life, and I don't plan on repeating that mistake ever again. I want to ask you all, my dear Redditors, to give me tips on how to make my innocent high school daughter despise Sophia even more. I need to make sure there are no chances of Sophia crawling back into her life. I know that Sophia doesn't have a conscience, so why should I? To be specific, my dear Redditors, I plan on damaging their relationship beyond repair. A woman who can abandon an infant can do anything again in the future. I want to protect my daughter because I know she doesn't have a mind of her own yet. As for me, this is also important because I don't want to see Sophia near my house in this lifetime and many lifetimes to come. The only way to do that is to cut all ties with her. The only tie remaining is my daughter. I want to teach her a lesson, and that lesson is that you don't just leave and come only when it is convenient for you. Help me here, Redditors, it's urgent. Updating. Thank you to all my fellow Redditors who have been helping me out for the past 2 weeks. Yes, you all have been helping me out because your comments and ideas have gone a very long way. To be honest, I already have a ruthless plan to get Sophia out of my child's life, but for the sake of morals, I'll just let that one slide. I want to do this in a way that will only ruin Sophia's relationship with Daniela. I don't want anything to get in the way of my relationship with my daughter. We have been together for 10 years, and I don't see any reason why that should change. A lot of you advise me to take actions fast as there is a possibility of Sophia going to court. Yes, I know that's a big possibility, and that's why I practically ran to Reddit. I know I'll win the case hands down. I'm ready to spend all my money on it if it means I'll damage Sophia beyond repair, but a custody battle will only make my daughter's life complicated. I'm ready to fight dirty with Sophia as long as my daughter doesn't have to know about any of it. She's the only reason I haven't taken reflex steps yet. Every day for the past 2 weeks have made me more angry than ever. The level of hatred and disgust I feel for Sophia cannot be quantified. I hate that woman with every vein in me, and I wish her the worst every day of my life. What makes me even more angry is the fact that she had the audacity to come to my house after 10 years. Sophia disappeared for 1 decade, then came back like she is a fucking magician who did a trick and disappeared. Her stupid mother even had the audacity to follow her here. The same woman that came back one day after Sophia left just so she could finish packing what her daughter forgot. If not for the possibility of legal charges, I wanted to strangle that woman that day. But no, violence is never the answer, so I have to do this calmly. My definition of calmly is also going to be heartless because I have waited for an opportunity to show Sophia what it's like to just wake up and lose it all. Okay, let me catch up with all of you and get you on board with all that's been happening. After posting on Reddit 2 weeks ago, I decided to take my daughter out to get ice cream the next day. Of course, I had an ulterior motive behind doing that. I don't let her take ice cream more than 4 times. I'm a month and she already exhausted those chances, but I decided to take her out for ice cream, so I called tell her a story. While we were at the park, I explained to her that her mother practically abandoned her when she was a child. Listen guys, I've told her that story many times, but that day, I had to make sure I left no stone unturned. Some might call it emotional blackmail, but I do not care. I have protected Daniela for 10 long years. I watched her come home from school and say kids were asking her why she did not have a mother to drop her off. It was hard for her to grow up with only nannies as the mother figures in her life. Most of my family members are countries away from us. Daniela assured me that she will never take Sophia back into her life. Honestly, I was not ready to take the word of a 10-year-old seriously, lol. My daughter is extremely innocent and kind. I'm sure all Sophia needs to do is fall on her feet, and then Daniela will take her back with open arms. I am here to make sure that never happens. My only mission here is not just to make my daughter hate Sophia. I also want to make Sophia regret everything she did 10 years ago. I want her to possibly tear up for the rest of her life. I know, that's heartless. Do I care? No. To my surprise, some days after taking Daniela to the park, I encountered Sophia at a restaurant. Thankfully, Daniela was at school and I was alone at the restaurant. Sophia had the nerve to walk up to me and tell me we needed to speak. I ignored her and ordered what I wanted to order. Sophia did not relent. She stood with me all through my order and dared to sit on the table I was seated on. Of course, she knew what she was doing. We were in a restaurant and we had people all around us. Of course, I could not start lashing out on her and I could not try to do anything to her. If not for the fact that I was a regular at that restaurant, I would have embarrassed the hell out of Sophia. Well, I did end up embarrassing her at the end of the day. Esther lived near the restaurant, so I called her and asked her to come there so we could have lunch. I know some of you might accuse me of trying to make Sophia jealous. Well, I don't know what my motive was exactly. One thing I know for sure is that I wanted to embarrass her and make her feel small. Whether she felt jealous or not is none of my business. In fact, that would be a plus for me. My girlfriend Esther is actually very possessive. I like that about her, and that day, at the restaurant, I loved her possessive side even more. I already told Esther about Sophia's return days before that day, and Esther was very pissed off. She even asked me several times if I still had any feelings for Sophia. Of course, I assured her that I didn't, but we all know how women are. Esther did not take my word for it, and to be honest, I liked that. When Esther arrived at the restaurant that day and saw Sophia sitting at my table, she practically sprinted to sit beside me. Esther did not only glare at Sophia, but she went as far as asking her if she had no shame at all. She asked Sophia why she was sitting at the table of her boyfriend when she was clearly not invited. Sophia was shocked to hear that I had a girlfriend. I find that very funny right now that I think about it. I mean, did she expect me to spend the rest of my life waiting for her to return before I moved on, or what? At first, I just sat back and watched how Sophia was struggling to defend herself, but when I had enough, I asked her to get out. She was taken aback and did not make any move to get up, but I stood up, cussed at her, then made a huge scene. When I say I made a huge scene, I mean I made sure the drama attracted security. I told then Sophia was intruding and disturbing my girlfriend and I. Esther seconded to my claims, so Sophia was escorted out of the restaurant immediately. We had caused a scene and people practically abandoned their foods to stare at us. I did not care because all I wanted to do was embarrass Sophia, and it was a very successful execution. Esther and I finished our lunch that day before leaving the restaurant. I got home late in the evening because I spent the day with Esther. It was summer break, so my mother picked Daniela up earlier that day and they went on a trip together. I was alone at home that night, but I did not expect any guest. It was almost 10 p.m. when my doorbell rang. It was raining heavily that night, and I did not expect anyone to come knock at my door. When I opened the door, I found the security man standing there. When I asked him what he wanted, he told me that someone was looking for me. I did not expect anyone late in the night, so I asked him if he recognized who it was. He told that it was the same woman who came to the house some days ago. I did not need a seer to tell me he was talking about Sophia. I was so angry that she had the nerve to show up at my house, again. I told the security man to tell her I was coming outside and that she should wait for me. The security man assured me he'll deliver my message. After he left, I locked my door, took a shower, and went to bed. Whether or not Sophia waited for me all night and got drenched in the rain, I didn't really care. I wanted her to know what waiting for someone felt like. When I woke up the next morning, I felt so happy to have left her outside, even after promising her that I'd come outside to see her. It was intentional, and I'll do it again if I have the chance. I don't think anyone would truly understand the amount of disgust I feel for that woman. Her presence practically makes me angry and uneasy. I mean, how could anyone sane enough to be called a human being just wake up one morning and leave everything behind? Everything, including a 3-month-old child. Anyone who is capable of doing that is not a human being but a beast, and I am not going to be hesitant when it comes to treating her like one. When she left 10 years ago, she practically vacated the city. I did not try looking for her, but my mother tried her best to find her. I couldn't care less, mostly because I treated betrayal with hatred. I don't have the time to dwell on the past. The only part of what Sophia did that got to me was leaving Daniela behind. That was it for me. But my mother did not relent. She kept looking for Sophia all over the city. After months of searching, she found out that Sophia had left the city with her mother. Some people said she eloped with a lover. Others said she just vacated the city. I don't know what really happened because, like I said, she's been dead to me for 10 years. I spent those years taking care of my daughter instead of looking for an adult that chose to make her own decisions. So guys, let me tell you what happened 2 days after I left Sophia in the rain. She practically stormed into my house with her mother and brother. I don't know how they even got past the security man at the gate. Sophia rained curses on me and told me how heartless I was for leaving her in the rain. She got teary-eyed and practically collapsed on the floor. She cried her eyes out and said I was making things difficult for her. All I want is my family. I want my family back, Nathaniel. Stop making this hard for me. Those were the words that came out of her mouth that day. I'm making your life hard? Are you sure you are mentally stable? When you left your daughter 10 years ago, how hard do you think her life was? How hard do you think her childhood was? And you stand here to tell me your life is hard. I pray it gets harder than this. My dear Redditors, that was my reply to her stupid claims. I had to make sure she understood the gravity of every decision she made. You know the funny thing? Sophia had the audacity to play that victim game. You know what they do in all those movies, right? One parent abandons the child, then comes back years later only to say, I'm here now. I was not in her life, but I am ready to make things right. Sophia decided to say those things too. I don't know if she thought I'd get moved by her display and suddenly tell her how much I missed her. Maybe that's what she thought, but that's definitely not what I did. In fact, I enjoyed seeing her rolling on the floor like a fucking mad bitch. I enjoyed each and every moment of it. I practically had a blast, and I am not even joking. After her stupid performance, it was her brother's turn to speak J-Guns. He told me Sophia was sorry and all she wanted to do was come back to her family. He said I should be a man and forgive her for everything she did and that it was all a mistake and blah blah blah. My dear Redditors, do you see what I'm working with here? I'm practically working with animals. They speak like people who have been out of touch with reality for years. To be honest, I feel like they have been out of touch with reality their whole lives. That's truly the only explanation in my head that makes sense right now. Because I don't understand how a grown man would stand in front of me and ask me to be a man by forgiving his sister who packed her things and left her marriage, a marriage that produced a beautiful daughter. I had to ask him where he was for the past 10 years and why he was not man enough to ask his sister why she abandoned a little child that knew nothing about the world. He stood there like the dumb fool he was and could not even look me in the eyes. I also had to ask him why he did not come to see his niece for the past 10 years. He tried defending himself, but I got so angry that I landed a punch in his face. I could resist putting my hands on a woman, but there's nothing stopping me from laying my hands on a dumb man. Yes, Redditors, I got into a fist fight with Sophia's brother. Of course, he fought back. He'd be a fool to not fight back. We fought for minutes, and it had to be the most satisfying minute of my life. It was satisfying because it just felt good to transfer all the hate and anger I had for my ex-wife to her brother. I think that's what they call transfer of aggression, right? Well, I think it was worth it. Sophia and her mother practically screamed on top of their lungs, thinking that would be enough to stop us from fighting. Well, it wasn't. The only people that ended the fight were my security guard and one of my neighbors who heard the conflict that was going on. Sophia left with her mother and brother immediately after the fight ended. It was satisfying to watch the horror on her face before she left. I knew that was the sign she needed to know that there was no chance that we were getting back together. After they left that day, I took a long shower and had a cold glass of whiskey. All the anger I felt did not suddenly vanish, but I still felt very relieved. Though I've not seen Sophia for the past few days, I still feel like she's not going to give up yet. I know that what transpired last time is enough to let her know that I am done with her forever, but I'm not sure it's enough to make her leave Daniela alone. Daniela is still with my mother, and I honestly don't want her to come back till further notice. I miss my daughter, but I'm doing this for her own good. I do not want Sophia anywhere near Daniela, and I put plans in place to make sure Daniela and Sophia never meet. I cannot control what happens in the future, but I can control what happens now. And right now, all I want is to make Sophia's life extremely miserable. I don't care if she feels like she's a changed woman and wants to right her wrongs. That's her fucking business, and it has nothing to do with me. She can go on with her repentance alone. I don't care. I will not let Sophia crawl back into my child's life or my life. I'm already talking to a lawyer and we are getting prepared in case she decides to take legal action. I don't even want joint custody. In fact, I want a restraining order if possible. I know it's very hard to get one unless Sophia does something that will require it. I'm ready to go as far as framing her, but my lawyer has advised me not to take that route. I'm trying my best to make sure that the court grants me full custody again. Why did I say again? Well, when Sophia left 10 years ago, she sent me the divorce papers soon after. There was no fight for custody, and that's exactly what must happen now. I'll keep you guys updated on what happens in the next few months because right now I'm focused on talking to my lawyer and getting prepared for whatever Sophia thinks she can throw my way. Please, don't refrain from dropping your comments because I'll try to comment on all of them whenever I get the chance. Till next time, Reddit. Update 2. My dear Redditors, it's been 2 fucking years since I made this post. I am beyond elated to write an update after 2 years. I can't even believe that this post has been up here for 2 good years. Time really does fly, and I'm just beginning to understand that. This experience has been one fucking funny, annoying, and elevating ride, and I'm really grateful it happened. So, let's not waste any time. I saw your comments and you all have been waiting for this update. So, if you're guessing that Sophia gave up and vanished like she did 10 years ago, you're wrong. Sophia did not take the easy route, and I'm thankful to have predicted her actions before it was too late. She stayed back in the city and made sure she tried to get on my nerves. I got another visit from Sophia 2 months later. She came to my house and asked to see her daughter. Yes, Redditors, Sophia had the nerves to come to my house again. I asked her to get out, obviously, but Sophia came prepared that day. She began to make a scene and tell me how stupid I was if I thought I could separate a mother from her own child. She accused me of trying to make Daniela hate her, and to be honest, I was glad she saw the truth. I'm happy she knows that I want my daughter to despise her. That said, Sophia caused a huge scene at my house. At first, I engaged in an exchange of words with her, which led me into cussing her out. But later, I just sat on the front porch and watched her continuously. Her rants eventually attracted the neighbors who got curious. Some of them who had stayed long enough recognized her as my ex-wife, while the new neighbors did not recognize her at all. The neighbors tried to calm her down, but she was not having it. She cried all over again and told them how I was stopping her from seeing her daughter. I've never really been one to care about public opinion, so it didn't really make a difference to me. I could see that some of the gullible neighbors and human rights activists were judging me with the way they looked at me. But the neighbors that stayed long enough and knew the full story were on my side. Some of the gossipers asked me to tell my side of the story, and I just found that very ridiculous. I didn't need to table the matter in front of anybody and get validation for what I knew was right. I refused because I was not going to give her an upper edge and let people meditate. I knew that there was nothing anybody was going to say that day that would make me change my mind. If I started explaining myself, I'd be telling them that I wanted them to judge a case that was not their business. Some of the neighbors I interacted with before tried to intervene and tell the other neighbors what really happened, but I did not try to input anything. After hours of unnecessary noise, I sent everyone out of my house. When I say everyone, I mean the neighbors and Sophia herself. Nobody was left out, not even my friends were left out. It's common knowledge that people who have never really been through a situation have the tendency to try judge that situation. Most times they just end up using their emotions and what they feel is justice. I did not need justice from anybody. I did not need anyone to give me justice. If you all are wondering where Daniela was that day, she was still with my mother. I enrolled her in another school there because I did not want her to come back till I was sure Sophia was out of the city. Daniela did not like the arrangement at all because changing schools is very hard for children, but I did not leave her with a choice. My mother convinced her with some ice cream, and that settled everything. Since I still had work, I'd go visit them every weekend, then return back to the city. Daniela would wail and cry anytime I got ready to leave. To be honest, I hated myself for spending days away from her, but I had to discipline myself. So, Daniela was not home to witness the scene Sophia caused that day. 4 months later, I started getting hints from some of the people I was close to in the city that Sophia had a new boyfriend who seemed to be rich enough. They also told me that there was a possibility of her getting a lawyer since she had a new rich boyfriend. I was relaxed before because I knew Sophia couldn't afford a lawyer bit. When I was told she had a new rich boyfriend, I knew that I had to take action fast. It was, and still is common knowledge to me, that Sophia can be very convincing. She's a woman that has the ability to make you feel pity for her no matter what type of facts you have against her. That's why I did not waste time in hatching up my plan. Weeks later, I was able to get information on Sophia's new boyfriend from a friend. I got to know that he was a guy from a reputable family who came from old money. I'm sure my fellow Redditors know how significant old money is. It's the kind of wealth that has connections and stability. I knew that I had to do something fast, or else Sophia was going to get this new guy under her palms. I had more money than Sophia, but I did not have more money than her new boyfriend. There was every possibility that she was going to get him to get his family lawyer to defend her in court. Of course, guys from rich families have family lawyers who are usually very good at what they do. I was able to come up with a plan, and that plan was to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. My plan was simple, but the execution was nowhere near simple. My dear Redditors, it's always hard for good people like me, LOL, to get vengeance. I was able to get Sophia's boyfriend's, well, his name is Darius, so let's just call him that now. I was able to get Darius' usual schedule from a friend of mine. I knew he worked at a bank and would go to a particular restaurant to cool off after work. I started going to the restaurant regularly and staying there for hours till he got there. I continued that routine for weeks before we finally spoke one day. Thankfully, he did not seem to recognize me. Maybe it helped that I introduced myself in a fake French accent with a very fake name. I started talking about finances and he seemed to like the topics I brought up. Of course, a guy who works in a bank would want to hear about finance. It was a common logic I used, and thankfully, it worked. We became friends from that day on. 1 week later, I invited him to the restaurant to have lunch with me. That same day, I invited Sophia to the restaurant to have lunch with me. I told Darius that I recently got back with my old partner and that we'd been dating for months. He was excited and told me he wanted to meet her that same day. Sophia arrived at the restaurant before Darius did, and that's because I gave them 2 different times to come. When Sophia arrived, I told her I was ready to get back with her and that I missed her. I even went as far as telling her I broke up with Esther and was ready to let Daniela see her. She was shocked at first and tried playing hard to get, but after some time, she began to give in. We spent minutes talking, and to be honest, that had to be the most wasted minutes of my life. Thankfully, I was able to sight Darius coming from afar, and that was when I leaned in and kissed Sophia. Well, I did not really kiss her because I am disgusted by that woman. I just joined our foreheads together. Yes, my dear Redditors, I had to do what I had to do to get what I wanted. Darius was shocked to see Sophia and I in that position. I introduced her as the girl I've been telling him about, and he told me that Sophia was his girlfriend. I acted surprised and blah blah blah. Long story short, he got angry and left the restaurant. Sophia was so angry that she tried to slap me on the face, but I was able to twist her hands behind her and hold her in place. She got teary-eyed and told me she regretted the day she got married to me. I told her I was surprised it took her so long to regret it because honestly, I've been regretting it for years. She called me several names, some of which I cannot really remember, but the one I remember is betrayer. I was so happy she called me a betrayer because that just made me remind her how she betrayed her own child and how she betrayed me years ago. She stormed out of the restaurant after that and I went home. Do I feel bad about using Darius? No, I don't. He needs to thank me for saving him from a woman like Sophia. I heard he broke up with her that same day. How do I know? One of my friends is his colleague at the bank. He's the one that told me Darius was dating Sophia in the first place. Even after Sophia tried to tell him I was just her ex-husband, he did not want to get involved in the drama. He's from a reputable family, and we all know how they hate to get into shit. Sophia lost her rich boyfriend thanks to me, and I still enjoy that fact till this day. I'm happy that I was able to take something from her life. I'm happy that I gave her hope of us getting back together that day, then snatched it all from her. It's almost a replication of what she did to me many years ago. Of course, Sophia did not give up. She filed for joint custody in court, but the case watered down in the first few weeks. She was not stable enough, and she was absent for too long in my daughter's life. I thought she'd not give up, but maybe she ran out of money and decided not to go on with the case. Even though the custody fight ended and Sophia seemed to not show herself to me for months, I was not ready to have her show up again in the future. I wanted my daughter to have a stable life without a mother who appeared and disappeared anytime she had enough money to do so. After months of trying, I was able to get a job transfer out of town. I don't want to mention our new location for personal reasons, but I was able to get far away from our old town. My daughter is back to living with me, and we've spent months making up for the time we spent away from each other. Another important news, I got married to Esther. She's been a great mother to Daniela, and that's all I ever wanted. Our marriage has been great, and we're still learning to understand each other. That's what's been going on in my life, guys. Thanks for all your supportive comments and suggestions. I'm thankful to each and every one of you. Cheers. I tried to pay back my husband by making him jealous. Instead, he left and ruined my life. The things we sometimes do just to prove a point or make our partners jealous, all in the name of revenge, will shock you. Sometimes it works, but other partners don't tolerate rubbish. Instead of doing what you have expected them to do, they just decide to leave and make sure that you live your life suffering. I sometimes call that karma. Some things are better left as they are because you actually don't know the outcome of them. It's so sad that I chose to do a childish and careless act just to make my husband jealous. You know the phrase that says, let bygones be bygones, I should have used it. So I, F27, fell in love with this fine, charming, and sexy guy at my 25th birthday party. Well, he was my big brother's friend. He was invited by him to my party. I remember when my brother first came with him to our house to finish some work. I knew my brother was not a saint. Police officers used to come home to look for him. I didn't know what he was doing that made police officers come to our house looking for him. But surely it was something illegal, but I didn't care much because it was not affecting me in any way. I loved my brother very much, but what he was doing, legal or illegal, was not what I cared about. As long as he came home in one piece, I was more than happy. We lived with our parents. It was just me and my brother from my mother. Then father had 7 more children, which he didn't raise. My father's children are sweet, but some are evil. I think the evilness was caused by my father being absent in their lives, I don't know. We are just being punished for our parents' sins. That's how unfair life is. Okay, let me cut with the boring part of my family. Let me continue to tell you about my husband. So as I have mentioned that he was my brother's friend, their friendship got ruined after my brother had found out that we were dating. It somehow ended, but they kept on being civil just for my sake, I think. So my brother had his own room outside our home. You know, black parents, or must I say Zulu parents, or even male children believe that when they grow up or think they are old enough, they have to move to an outside building so that they can have their own privacy. My brother was a womanizer, he loved women a lot, and he used to change them to a point that his behavior created a soul. He had 5 children from different mothers. I wondered if he was not scared of sickness, because nowadays everyone has their own sickness, and he was busy spreading his semen everywhere. One day, my mother had asked me to go and call my brother in his room and tell him that the food was ready. I knocked and got in after he had given me the permission to enter. When I got in, I saw his friend. He introduced him as Sifundo, M32, which is a Zulu name that means lesson. I was a bubbly girl, so I introduced myself also and extended my hand to him for a handshake. The handshake lasted for minutes because I didn't want to let go of his soft hand until my brother brought me back to earth by clearing his throat and warned me that his friend was older than me, and I should go and give Mom a feedback that he was coming. Since that day, I couldn't stop dreaming and being fascinated about my brother's friend. I thought it was just a crazy and lame crush that would end any time, but no, it wasn't. You know when they say you can find love at first sight? That was me. I fell in love with the guy at first sight. Crazy, right? Days passed, I couldn't stop thinking about the guy. I ended up acting all PI on my brother, asking him about his friend just to get a little more information about him, but I got nothing. Until when I heard my mother asking my brother what was his connection with the Zuma boy. That's when I got his surname and went to search for him on social media, but I didn't find him, which was a bummer. Weeks passed and my 25th birthday arrived. That time I was working at the petrol station around Pinetown, where we were staying. It was not an ideal job, but I had to do what a girl had to do to be independent and make some cash. We can't always expect our parents to provide for us even when we have the privilege to stand on our own and be independent. My father didn't like the idea of me working at a petrol station. He would say it's not safe for a girl to work at a petrol station because I would have to work night shifts. Those shifts were not safe because a lot happens in petrol stations. What he was saying was true, but I didn't want to be a daddy's girl and expect to get everything on a silver platter. I had to work for my own pocket, and it was not the job I wanted to spend a lot of time in. It was just to get that little weekly salary and save to start my own business without my parents' help. Yes, my parents had money, but they were not rich. They worked very hard for their money. I also wanted to make my own money. On the day of my 25th birthday party, all I wanted was to spend time with my family, as we have always done. It was either we went out on the weekend away or just went to any restaurant to celebrate and spend time as a family. I didn't know that my brother and my mom had planned a surprise party for me. That day, my brother was the one who suggested that we went out. I thought maybe my parents were going to be busy since my father was a traffic cop officer, so his job was demanding, especially during weekends and holidays. But I was grateful for every minute he spent with me on my birthdays. My mother was a lawyer, so you see how their jobs were demanding and kept them busy most of the time. After my brother and I were done with our outing, we went back home. When we got home, I was surprised by the cars that were in our yard. Our extended family members didn't just visit unless there was a ceremony or my father was hosting something and invited them. I was happy and grateful to my parents. I found out that my brother was the one who came up with the idea of hosting a party for me for a change. I wouldn't trade him for nothing. I loved and still love my brother so much. Sun had set, some relatives were out of it, and some were dancing to the music that was playing. The fine caramel guy came to me and wished me a happy birthday. I was not expecting him to be in my party, but he was my brother's friend, so it shouldn't have been a surprise. He even bought me a birthday gift, imagine. I was charmed by his gentleman's gesture. He asked me on the side, so I obliged and went with him to a quieter place. He started complimenting me and told me that he didn't know I was 25 and I looked young for a 25-year-old, as if he had asked. My heart was doing the dance, because I was with my crush, and he complimented my beauty, not knowing that I had lurked a very dangerous demon in my life. That time Sifundo was 29, and he was going to turn 30 the following month. He invited me to his birthday bride, but I declined the invitation because I had thought my brother would also be at that party since they were friends. A month passed, he kept coming to our house looking for my brother. Well, that was what he had said, but I knew who he was looking for. One day he gained strength to ask for my numbers, and I gave him without hesitation. We started talking from there. He was not just fine and sexy, but he was funny too. We got close, started going out. Secretly, of course, because I didn't want my brother or my parents to find out that I was spending time with my brother's friend. We were what they call friends with benefits. I would sneak out at home and go to his house to spend the night with him, not knowing that I am putting myself in a deadly trap. But love makes you do unthinkable things, right? I remember the day I had sneaked out at home to go and spend the weekend with Sifundo. And well, it was his birthday weekend, so he had asked me to spend the weekend with him. So I sneaked out at home. The funny thing is that I went out wearing a gown so that if I bump into my mother, since she was not a heavy sleeper and she loved making coffee at night when she is working on a case, I would be able to tell a lie. So I tiptoed till I had reached the door, and I went out not knowing that my mother heard the door closing. That weekend, my father was working night shifts, so I had a chance to go out thinking that my mother was sleeping. Mind you, that evening I had left my bed looking like there was someone sleeping. I had gently put the pillows under the blanket, took a small teddy and covered it with my wig so that if someone got in my room, they would think I was sleeping. When I reached outside with success, I jumped off the fence and went to Sifundo's car. The plan was not to stay with him the whole weekend, but I would be spending nights with him on that weekend. When I got into his car, I took off my gown because I was going to his birthday braai. I had everything covered under my sleeping gown. I was wearing an outfit that I thought would blow his mind. We had a great night. He introduced me to his other friends. Some were with their girlfriends who kept giving me nasty looks, but I didn't care about them. I was there for my man, so they were a non-factor to me. Till today, I still don't understand the hate or jealousy that ladies have for each other, especially when they see each other at parties. Can anyone tell me why ladies are like that, or this only happens with South African ladies? I don't know what comes into a woman's mind when they see another woman coming to a party with her man. Some exclude themselves and sit in other areas as a group and keep throwing daggers at the new girl. I'm still failing to understand that, especially during house parties. Most ladies get along with each other or start loosening up when the alcohol has kicked in the system. Some would start complimenting you, some would tell you information that you didn't ask for. Sifundo and I left the party early and went to his crib. Some were not really pleased that he was leaving early, especially when they had hosted a party braai to celebrate his birthday with him. At 4 a.m., he drove me back home. I had asked him to take me back home early because I didn't want my father to come back from work and see that I wasn't in bed. My father treated me like a child. I think it's because I was the only girl he had. His other 6 children were males, which made me the only princess he had. When I got into my room, I couldn't believe what I had found. I thought I was careful enough and made sure that no one suspected that I was not home. I found my mother sleeping in my bed. My teddy and pillows were on the floor. I swear I wished the earth would swallow me there and then. I wanted to turn and go back to my man's house. My mother was not used to sleeping on my bed or with me unless she had an unsettling feeling or had a scary dream and my father was not home. I didn't think I would find her that day, and I was in deep shot. I opted to turn and go to sleep on the couch. At least if she found me sleeping on the couch, she would think I dozed off there, but my plan didn't work because as soon as I started tiptoeing back to the lounge, she called my name. I knew there and then that my ancestors had forsaken me. I was in trouble. I thought she was going to shout at me, but she just told me to get in bed and sleep. We would speak when the sun rose. I did as told. When I got to bed, I slept like a person who was high on drugs or drank a lot of booze because I woke up in the afternoon. I was woken up in the afternoon by my father because he was thinking that maybe I was sick. I am not a heavy sleeper. I usually wake up early, maximum time being 9 a.m., so it was not usual for my father to sleep till 12 or in the afternoon. My mother came into my room right after my father left. As expected, she gave me an earful. The worst part, she had seen me sneaking out to see the segundo. I then knew that I was in trouble, but I couldn't care less because I loved the guy and I was old enough to make my own decisions. Despite my mother's disapproval, I continued seeing my man. A few months after we had formalized our relationship, he told me that he had told my brother about us. I won't lie. I was angry at him because I was not ready for my brother to know about our relationship, especially since I was dating his friend. And I knew he would also disapprove of the relationship. As much as I loved my man, but he had no right to go and tell my brother, I wanted him to know when I was the one telling him. You know, males tend to think differently, especially when their friends date their baby sisters. Mind you, my brother had given me an earful about segundo and asked me not to start any connection with him, even if it would be an innocent friendship. So segundo telling my brother about us would have made my brother think I was disrespecting him, and segundo would be gloating about our relationship to him. Or maybe he was gloating, but I was so caught up in a love nest to see things from my brother's perspective. Since then, my relationship with my brother changed. He felt like I had disrespected him because I went ahead and got in a relationship with the same man he warned and asked me not to have any relation with. On the other hand, my mother was angry at me for being in a relationship with segundo. She even asked me to end the relationship or she would tell my father. I sometimes don't understand African parents. They like choosing who we fall in love with, forgetting that when the heart has decided that it wants or loves this person, no matter how bad she is, you can't go against it. It controls you after all. Even though mine chose my worst nightmare unknowingly. Months passed. I was still head over heels with the man. I was untouchable. I didn't even listen to my family. I was too deep in it. Even when my brother tried talking to me, I decided to just end our relationship because I thought he wanted to control me and my love life. I turned my back on my family for a man, not knowing that I had dug my own grave. I was a fool, right? My father no longer treated me as his princess. He was angry at me and my decisions, even when he and my brother told me the darkest side of segundo and his shenanigans. I didn't listen. It was like I was possessed or controlled by him. My mother even suggested that we went to a spiritually gifted person to lift out the spell that he had given me. I was what they called a gone girl. I didn't need anyone's validation or permission to be with my man. I tried asking him about who he really was because we had never gone into a deeper conversation about our lives and future goals. The only answer he gave me was, "You don't want to know the real me, but you will find out when the time is right." I didn't understand why he would say that because he knew everything about my family. But I knew nothing about his family. I had thought he was living in his family's back room, but I found out that he was actually renting the back room. When I asked him about it, he told me to stop worrying about things that do not concern me and continue being a good girlfriend, not his mother or lawyer in a courtroom. I let everything slide and moved on from it and continued doing my girlfriend duties. People kept giving me warnings about how bad and dangerous my man was, but I didn't bother myself to listen to them. I thought people were just jealous of our relationship. A year later, I got pregnant. After we had found out that I was expecting his firstborn child, he decided to go home and show his respect. He paid damages and my dowry bride price. In our culture, it is believed that when a man has entered a father's cradle, started being intimate with the girl, and impregnated the girl, that boy man has to pay the damages for inserting his private part to a girl's private part and planting a seed. I was happy that he was showing respect to my family and taking responsibility for his unborn child. I was finally becoming what I had been fantasizing about when he was still my crush. I had dreamt of him making me his wife, expanding our family, and building our family's empire together. I should have known that whatever I dreamt about was not actually a dream, but a nightmare. My family gave him, or must I say his uncles, a hard time. My father and brother didn't want to accept the money, saying it was blood money. It actually took me to threaten my family to disown them and go live with Sifundo if they do not accept the money. I didn't want to hear anything they were saying about my man. That was the biggest mistake I have ever made. Time passed, and my tummy got heavier. That time he had bought a new house, so I moved in with him because according to him, I was already his wife since he had paid for my bride price. Most of the time I was alone in the house, mind you. I had quitted my job because he told me that he won't be in a relationship with the petrol attendant. My foolishness and blindness resigned at work. I had put all my trust in him. The money I had saved to start my own business, I gave it to him when he told me that his car wash and joint businesses were in jeopardy of being closed down because his liquor license and business permit had expired. So as a good, loving, and supportive wife-fiancé that I was, I withdrew all my savings and gave it to him to save his businesses. He said he would pay it back, but I didn't want him to pay me back because he was my man, and I thought it was my duty as his woman to make sure that my man and household are well taken care of. His businesses continued running, and he started acting weird around me. It was like he was hiding something from me because when I asked if he was okay, he would dismiss me and say it's work issues, I shouldn't worry myself much about it. Whatever it was that he was hiding from me, I also dismissed it for the sake of my unborn child. He started going out a lot. When I raised the issue, he would lie and say the businesses were busy, so he had to assist wherever he could because his staff was short. I thought maybe he was talking about the joint because it was the only business he had that closed at midnight. The car wash was closing at 19 hours p.m., so I wouldn't be the car wash that had kept him until late. His behavior got worse each and every day. I started questioning myself if he was cheating on me while I was pregnant with his child. The thoughts were running wild to a point that I gathered some courage and confronted him. Well, more like asking him if he was cheating on me while I was sitting in the house pregnant with his child. You wouldn't believe the answer he gave me. He actually confessed that he was cheating and he had found someone who was more beautiful and respectful than me. I thought he was drunk, but no. Everything he spitted, he meant every word because he was sober as a judge. I thought he was joking, or he would tell me that he was just pulling my leg, but instead he just left the house after he had spit nonsense to me. He came back the following day and acted like everything was fine. He didn't even bother apologizing. The foolish and naive me forgave him even though I didn't get any apology, but I couldn't stay angry at him. I mean, he was my man. I thought maybe he was under work pressure. That's why he said what he had said. I couldn't stay angry at him. I loved him, and I trusted him. I had lost all contact with my family because they didn't approve of my relationship with Sifundo, so for the sake of my newly found family, I cut all ties. My father was so disappointed in me. I know he had big wishes and dreams for his only daughter, but my heart fell for someone who I thought would be my savior, my soulmate. That time I missed my family so much. I had no one to talk to about what I was facing. I was all alone. The guy was controlling, but I didn't see that because I was caught up in the nest of love. I ignored all the signs and red flags that he was showing. I should have acted earlier and left him. I remember this one time when he came back home drunk. He found me on a call with a lady that I was working with at a petrol station. He grabbed my phone and smashed it on the wall. I was confused and scared by his outburst. I couldn't understand why he would snatch my phone and throw it on the wall without saying anything. Do you think I should have left or be patient with him because I loved the man? What do you think I should have done? Things escalated to a point where he slapped me. I couldn't believe it. He had said some horrible things to me, but he had never laid a hand on me. That whole week I was not okay, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I should have left that day when he slapped me. He accused me of cheating, saying that I had the nerve to talk to another man when I saw him coming in. A week after, I lost our child due to the stress I had. Again, he accused me of being a murderer. He said I had killed his child. Those words destroyed my heart. I have had enough. I was tired of the mistreatment. I believed that my man was bewitched. Maybe he was given a love potion by a woman who wanted to get in between us. I wanted to fight for my man, my marriage. I went to a traditional healer to consult about my issue and find out what was going on, and to find a solution to my household problems. When I arrived at the traditional healer's consultation room, the first thing he told me was, That man that you are willing to fight for is gone. He is no longer yours, and he will be your downfall. I couldn't sit and listen to the healer anymore because he didn't know what was happening in my heart. He didn't and wouldn't understand how much my heart longed for my husband. I missed him. I missed the old him, so I was not going to just sit back and let another woman take him. Was I a fool by trying to fix my marriage? I had to think of the way to get his attention and make him love me just like always. I thought since I had lost the baby, he would come back to his senses and we would get closer again. I mean, we both lost our unborn, so he had to come back home so that we could heal together. But instead, it was like it drove him away more than before. Did he even love me? A month passed. He was coming home, and I was still doing my wifely duties. The mistreatment had stopped, or must I say, had taken a break, because the only thing he came home for was the food I had cooked for him and sleeping with me. I was more like a booty call and a maid to him. So one weekend, he did something unexpected and shocking. He came home late that night. I had already fallen asleep. I heard noises coming from another room since our house was a 3-room house. I woke up to check where the noise was coming and to find out that the sounds were coming from the guest room. I opened it to check who was in the room. When I got in, I found him making love to some woman. I didn't know what to do. I was shocked, shuddered, and heartbroken, to a point that I hysterically cried. I left the room immediately after he heard that I was in the room. The buster didn't even bother to follow me. I thought about what the traditional healer had told me, but I couldn't leave him without a fight. That was when I thought of revenge. I wanted to make him jealous so maybe he would recognize his mistakes and come back to me. I cried till I had no tears left in me. I became bitter, angry, and out for blood. I wanted him to feel the pain he had put me through. I wanted him to get a taste of his own medicine. So I continued being a good, submissive wife. I was the biggest fool of them all, but I was a shame in a women's generation. I know that, but what would I have done? What would you do if you were in my shoes? One day I called the girl that I was working with at the petrol station and asked her to meet up with me at McDonald's in town, which she agreed to. We got closer. I told her about my marriage, not about what I was going through, because I didn't fully trust her. I wanted some destruction, and she was a great destruction. Bianca, the girl from my previous work, was a free-spirited and outgoing person, so I was going to use her to get the revenge I needed. We started going out, and she introduced me to a few of her friends. Well, she stayed in a township called Savannah Park, which was far from where my husband and I were staying. We became friends. She would come to my house to fetch me, saying I should release some tension because it didn't look good on me. We started going out a lot. Well, she loved shopping, so whenever she was not working or on her payday, she would ask me to accompany her to Pavilion Mall, which was based in Westville, for shopping. Spending time with her was doing me good. I even forgot about my house problems for a few hours. As Bianca and I went out a lot, my husband once came home and the house was empty. That fueled him because when I came back, he slapped me again, calling me a slut and that I went out with other men while he worked very hard to provide for my useless self. His words no longer mattered to me because I was used to them. There was this day when I decided to be home and be a good wife. My husband came back very early that day, and he was on the phone speaking to whoever he was speaking to. I didn't know what he was planning, but I heard him confirming some plans. After he was done with his call, he told me to get ready. We were going out and I should look beautiful. A fool would think he was slowly coming back, but he had planned the worst thing that would change your life. I went with the flow and prepared for the night ahead. I wore the dress that I had bought, hoping to fix things with him. I wanted to surprise him with his favorite at dinner, but that didn't happen. The night came. Sifundo was in a happy mood that made me suspicious because he hadn't been happy well around me. When we got to this private location, there were a lot of people. I knew some of them from his birthday braai. The night went on very well until he asked the DJ to stop the music, which got me more confused because I didn't know why I was invited to a party that I didn't know about. And what was he going to say since he stopped the music? He started by introducing me as his wife. He then went on with his speech. What shocked me to a core was when he called some lady in front. He started by thanking her. I didn't know what was going on, and it seemed like I was the only one in the dark. As I was confused about what was going on, I saw him getting down on his knees, asking this lady to make him the happiest man alive. My knees got weak in an instant, mind you. I came with him to the party. I had no way to go. So I remained at the proposal party of my husband and his fiancée. I couldn't take it anymore, so I went outside to catch my breath. One of his friends came to me and asked if I was okay. The only thing I did was crying my eyes out. I started having flashbacks of the day when he told me that he was cheating and the lady was more respectful than I was. The husband's friend was a gentleman enough to offer me a lift home. I got home and smashed everything that was in front of me. I was hurt. I had thought there was still a chance for us, for our love. I guess I was no longer the girl he loved, or he never loved me. I mean, the guy surely knew that I had a crush on him, so he took that to his advantage to destroy my life. The friend called the following day to check up on me. Time went on. The guy kept calling. I was slowly getting back to myself and accepting the situation, so the guy and I got close. We then started having a fling. I won't lie and say I didn't sleep with the guy, because I did. It was a moment of weakness, and he was there, so I went with the flow. The guy caught feelings somehow, and he wanted us to take our fling on another level. I didn't understand him, because a fling was supposed to be a secret, not knowing that the guy was actually there to destroy my life along with his friend. My husband found out about the fling. I don't know how he did, but I was sure that his friend had spilt the beans. Weeks passed, and I was in the house going through the omnibus of my favorite telenovelas called The Queen and the River when I heard a knock, and it was police officers. They were looking for my husband. I told them that I didn't know where he was because he was no longer coming to the house. My parents and brother had warned me about Segundo, but I didn't listen, and the karma was catching on me. One lazy day, I got a call from Bianca telling me to check my social media. When I asked why I must do that, she told me to find out for myself. At that time, I was in the middle of starting my traditional fast food business and trying to get sponsors. So I logged on, and the first thing that I saw was a video, and most people that I was following were sharing and commenting about it. I opened the video, and to my surprise, it was my video with my husband's friend being intimate. My tongue got dry in an instant. I also saw that the person who had posted the video was Segundo Zuma, my so-called husband. I felt like I was losing breath, so I called Bianca and asked her to come to my house. My heart was beating abnormally, and the next thing I don't remember what happened because I woke in the hospital bed, with drips and oxygen covering my mouth. The meaning of his name became a true meaning. He was my lesson, the one I'll never forget about. The video was the first thing that came back to my mind when I woke up. I felt like I was suffocating. I had just started fixing my life, and the person I once loved destroyed my life. I lost the sponsor that I had got. I lost customers. My life was no longer the same. I wanted to just... My father came to see me after everything I had said to them. I was ashamed to look at him, but he took me back home. Even though things were no longer the same as before, I was willing to work on my relationship with my family. I thought I was just making him pay for hurting me. Instead, he left me and destroyed my life. What have I done wrong to be punished like this? Please advise me.